Hi, I'm Colleen Brennan.
And I'm Janice Rodriguez.
And this is Defending Indiana. Indiana cuisine is not so easy to defend. Thankfully, we're joined by Ambarish Lulay and Chris Pappas, acclaimed Hoosier chefs who do their very best to prove us wrong. Hey, Janice.
Hey, Colleen.
Some things that people don't associate with Indiana are like fine wine and cuisine.
Amongst other things.
What do you
like diversity, fairness,
tolerance,
culture? Yeah.
There's a lot.
But we've done our best. We've done our best to dispel myths. We're opening minds here. We're changing lives. We're changing minds and hearts, Colleen.
Wow.
With our little podcast.
Canonize me, baby, because that's what I'm all about.
The patron saints of Indiana right here. Sorry. I could see my priest glaring at me.
Hey, you know what? We can perform miracles. We're changing
You're gonna keep this thing going, aren't you? My mom's gonna say a rosary for us both now.
It's the Catholic thing, I feel like.
I know.
This might be my closest to getting anywhere.
We took it. We went all the way. You started with canonization. Yes, anded it all the way.
All the way. It's not going any further. So let's go back.
We have to stop it now. Because then it just takes a dark turn.
It's going to go dark.
Yeah. You know who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I would say that. That goes back to the whole like culture thing and people thinking that all of Indiana is kind of country.
Yeah.
Which I feel like we're like, that's not true.
Janice, I'll be honest. This one's going to be a hard one for me because we chose this for a number of reasons, but one of them is that it's hard for me to defend Indiana in this context.
Okay.
That's why we have these wonderful guests joining us today.
Oh yeah, we needed them, and we needed for sure, because
I need someone to change my mind.
Okay.
I
would say that like for me, Indiana's not. I don't think of like fine cuisine, but I think of like comfort food.
Okay.
But not as like comforty foodie as like Southern food, but I don't know. It's like I think of like the summer fairs, and I think of Shoop's hamburgers, and I think of, like the pizza things down in Bloomington. I'm going blank. I just think of like college food down in Bloomington. I think of like food I ate growing up. And to me, it's like, it was in Indiana. So to me, it's Indiana food.
Yeah. I mean, and
that makes no sense.
So what did you eat growing up in your house? Like, what was food like in your house?
That was some rough years there. I always say like the years in between when my parents got divorced and my stepdad came around. Those are some Chef Boyardee years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of chunky soups.
Yeah.
And a lot of a lot of canned. I don't have high blood pressure. No, it was just, oh God, this is tough. So I kind of grew up very much like we'd have something kind of American, but then my mom would always make like arroz con gandules, which is like rice and pigeon peas, or she'd always make rice and beans. It'd always be like a starchy carb on the side.
Yeah.
Even if we were eating spaghetti. And I was like, okay, I didn't know what carbs were back then, but I'm like, this is delicious. Because she was like, I can make rice. My mom's going to hear this and kill me. Let's just say my mom isn't like a great cook.
Okay.
Ooh, God. Can you edit that out? Oh, don't edit
Carmen
it out.
but Carmen's one of my favorite people.
Yeah, Carmen's still our number one fan. No, she's like, I hate you all. Great cook. Who's a great cook? There's a few great home cooks. And whatever. She was working all the time. I mean, you can't do everything.
She was doing her best.
Yes. And her best was like, keep that pantry full of chunky soup, man.
Hell yeah.
I'm not, dude, listen, I would eat like a can of like the chunky soup clam chowder. And I was like, oh, this is like amazing. I thought it was like
some Ritz crackers. I
get the oyster crackers.
Fine.
I mean, I do real Ritz was fancy. Forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no, seriously, that's what we just ate, like typical, I feel like American food, like pork chops, mashed potatoes, Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
A lot of McDonald's. What about you?
We ate, my family, we've talked about is Irish. And so I feel like both Ireland and Indiana are not well known for their fine dining and cuisine. Um,
I mean, the things
so
you guys can do with the potato, though, am I right?
well, so growing up, like we had my God bless my mom. I don't think we had a spice cabinet. Like I don't think we
Oh,
seasoned
oh, Colleen.
anything. So like
Oh,
it would be like if it was very nobody in my family is listening to this, so I feel like I have carte blanche to say whatever.
okay. I'm sorry. I'm like making a face. That's like because it's such a stereotype. Sorry.
I know. This is the real Colleen Brennan. No, we had my dad liked meat. So we'd have a chunk of meat that was somehow cooked in an oven. There was no seasoning. I don't even think there was salt and pepper on it. It was just meat, fire, plate. That's how it went. And then we had a baked potato. And then Janice's face right now is right.
I was
And
like,
then we had
you put a little
like
garlic powder on
like
it. You didn't
green
massage
beans or
it.
peas. What?
You didn't pierce it and massage the herbs.
No, and I'd put like ketchup on my meat because I just
God.
couldn't choke it down. I mean, it was just, I got to tell you, it was, I do not have fond memories of dinner, but I do have fond memories of dessert because my mom was an amazing baker. And so like what we lacked in taste for our regular meals, we had an abundance of like delicious, tasty desserts. Like my mom is well known for like her baking skills and how good she was at baking. So
great at baking, quick steak, not her forte.
No, and I don't know if it just wasn't her forte or if we were all, catering to the schedule and the time. But when I got into high school, my mom was in grad school when I was in high school. So I started doing some of the cooking and I'd make like casseroles and some other things. But we'd have like, we'd have spaghetti. The best night of the week was Kentucky Fried Chicken night.
Yes. Isn't it always?
That was the best night of the week.
You're like just going with a bucket of chicken. I can see you and your brothers and sisters just like ravenous around. Like,
oh my God, it was the best night. But we also, my dad traveled a lot. I mean, he was gone a lot. So we had, we ended up, probably doing like takeout or going out a lot too. So
that's
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't, I don't know. I mean, but there's certain things, I guess maybe because my mom didn't really like cook. There's just like that kind of American, like Midwestern cuisine, like you mentioned casseroles.
Mm-hmm.
It was like she wouldn't make those. Like I would have them at friends' houses.
Yeah.
Like I don't think she ever made a tuna fish casserole. But kind of I love like old school American food.
Yeah.
Like I kind of want to make a tuna fish casserole right now, like with the peas, like. And some people are like, "Whoa!" Like, and I'm like, "What? It's delicious." I don't know what it is. It just reminds me of maybe going to my friends' houses and like reminds me of childhood.
Yeah.
And it hits the spot for me.
Yeah.
I love a hamburger helper. I don't care. It's delicious.
It is delicious because in our house, hamburger helper had seasoning. So
see?
It
had a packet.
So meatloaf and hamburger helper were amazing. Amazing. Like I would eat those nights. The other nights I wouldn't eat.
Wait, how? Listen, not a cook like myself.
Yeah.
Not skilled in the culinary arts, if you will. But like, dude, come on.
I know.
Like, salt and pepper is like the basis.
I know.
At least.
I know. In my adult life, I have stocked my parents' spice cabinet.
I mean, what I tell everybody? And this is me, and I told my husband when I got married, I was like, just use, don't use Goya anymore because, I don't, well, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's not get off political, but you can get it from anywhere. It's adobo. Okay, adobo. I've turned many non-Puerto Rican, non-Caribbean onto the joys of adobo seasoning.
Yeah.
Goya makes it, Badia makes it, I think Preferida makes it now. It has everything you need.
Yeah.
It has salt, pepper, a little bit of turmeric, garlic powder. You could put that on everything and it will taste good. And it doesn't make it, everyone thinks like, oh, it makes it taste Latin or something. And I'm like, no, it's just that mix of spices tenderizes it. You know what I mean? Gets rid of that like poultry flavor, especially if you're not going to brine. So you don't brine. You guys didn't brine your chicken. Okay. Actually, I took a cooking. I know a little bit more than I'm saying. I just don't do it, but I know a little bit more.
I know how to cook now. I mean, I've made it a mission. Once I got married and got all the equipment, I'm like, I'm going to learn how to cook.
You have a nice kitchen.
There was something lovely about a crock pot. I
see.
Yeah.
Could you? So who could put something in a crock pot with no seasoning? Like you have to.
You have to.
Like you need some. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But no, now I like cooking.
I feel like I should take you to like food therapy.
No, I'm okay. I'm recovered. I'm just sharing.
Priceless.
I'm just sharing.
Just
Sharing the past.
people have like
Easing
real
the pain.
issues and you're like, she never used garlic. Like,
I don't think we had any garlic in the house. Oh my God, no.
What about like onion powder? No.
There might have been garlic powder and onion powder for something.
But she never used it.
I just don't
Probably
think,
blaming your
honestly,
mom. Poor mom.
My poor mom. She was wonderful. She was doing her best. Yeah, but you know what was great? We didn't. The other thing is that we didn't like. She wouldn't let us have like really bad cereals or anything like that. So, and we weren't allowed to have like Hostess products. And I don't even think we really had like. I don't think we had a lot of pop in the house growing up. Like there was like we couldn't just go grab a Coke or anything like that. So I mean, there was like attention to diet. But when I go over to my neighbors' houses, I'd eat all the Twinkies and I had a friend, Mary, who her mom used to shop at the Hostess store and would get like crumb cakes and the fruit pies and the ho-hos, and I love that.
Did you call them cohos or ho-hos?
Ho-hos.
Oh, I heard cohos. I'm like,
no,
what's
that's a salmon.
Exactly. I'm like, they do it different in Michigan City.
That's a Lake Michigan salmon.
Yeah.
They do coho ho-hos.
It's not ding dong, it's King Kong. I don't know. I didn't know if you were like doing something else.
No, can you imagine a coho ho-ho? That sounds so disgusting.
But isn't ho-hos the ones that are like wrapped? Because I kind of see it could be like a salmon wrap.
The salmon wrap into the ho-ho? Chocolate cream salmon.
Thin fillets. Ever so gentle. Ridiculous. Okay, so when you had a couple of bucks in your pocket, like as a teenager, like is there a local spot that you guys would always go to? Not like McDonald's.
Well, okay. So, but now here's where, so we lived on the Michigan border, and Redemax cheeseburgers in New Buffalo, Michigan was where the second we got our driver's license was when we drove over the state line to go eat there.
Redemax.
So that's not Indiana.
I've heard of that.
Oh, you've never heard of Redemax?
No. I've heard of it, but I've never had it.
Oh my God, Janice.
It's just one spot. It's not a chain, is it?
No, it's the Redemax family. Owned it.
Wait, where is it? In like New Buffalo?
Yeah, it's in New Buffalo.
Okay.
And this is Michigan, by the way. I'm not doing anything to defend Indiana with food right now.
Awesome. Cross the state lines, guys. Cross
the state line. Yeah, Redemax was amazing. And there's always a line. And it started like as a little bar. And then it went, then the restaurant grew and grew and grew. But it was like, you know, like a 8-minute drive from my house. So we head there for burgers. But I mean, I guess we do like the McDonald's, Burger King, greasy food. There was a place called Nettie's in Michigan City that used to like do like kind of coney dog type things. I don't know.
Yeah, our palates weren't really refined as like 15-year-olds. So
no. And I think I was just so happy to have seasoning.
Again, with the seasoning. You're like anything.
Anything.
I will say that. I do feel like at least obviously being of Puerto Rican descent, that holiday parties and like that, I was exposed to more food. I had a lot of friends that were Mexican, so I did eat a lot of like ethnic Mexican, not Taco Bell, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, like I didn't eat Indian food, Asian food. I didn't eat any of that until college. Like it just wasn't like on our radar.
No.
There weren't like any kind of local places.
No.
God, I didn't have sushi until like 21.
Yeah. We'd eat Chinese food every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a Chinese restaurant in town.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it wasn't until like college, grad school, and really when we moved to Indianapolis that I started eating. That's not entirely true. Like when we went on vacation or we went different places, I felt like I ate better.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Because they use seasoning, so
they use again with the seasonings. I just wanted
sodium
in a can.
Yeah,
not good.
Yeah.
But I was thinking there's a couple real quick like local things. I don't know about, you were going to tell me about Indy. Is there like a local like specialty? Because like I think for Northwest Indiana, it's like lemon rice soup.
Oh, I didn't
I
even
hear
think
that from
about that.
everybody. It's like all the diners have their own version of lemon rice soup, but we would like, I don't know. We were obsessed one year. It's like me and my girlfriends were like the Golden Girls. We're like going around eating soup at the diner, and it was ridiculous. Because also we had like $2. We're like, can we just get a cup? But like, so we have our own. We still fight over if is it the Commander in Munster, is it like the Purple Steer in Highland? Like we all, well, I don't know, the Wheel had a good one too in Hammond. I think the Wheel's still open. So yeah, we had like our little spots, like like we were trying to get early bird special. It was ridiculous, but so I know that, but I don't know. I know about the pork tenderloin. That's more south, or is that the whole state?
I don't know. I never heard of the whole pork tenderloin thing until probably recently. I had no idea.
That was
when
big
I
in
was doing research for
Bloomington.
this podcast is when I realized there was a pork tenderloin thing going on in Indiana. But I mean, that's how removed I was from the Indiana Hoosier food scene.
It's the lack of spices as a child, Colleen. All you needed was a little rosemary, and things would have been different for you.
I know. You know, the crazy thing is we had mint growing in the front yard, so we never used it.
She would have put that on everything. You're like, oh god.
I used to munch the leaves. I used to pick them off, and
that's fine.
Our guest today worked all over the world as a chef. He spent 10 years in Indiana. Part of that time as the department chef at the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management at Purdue University. In this role, he oversaw food service operationally and academically at the Purdue campus. He was also the chef for the president of the university. He then went on to work at East End Grill in Lafayette, Indiana, with my good friend Scott Traskis. Most recently, he joined Cornell University in October of 2021 as their executive chef for all dining operations, and he now lives in Ithaca, New York, with his wife and child. Please welcome Ambarish Lulay. Our second guest grew up in Indiana. He's a Purdue University graduate and also graduated from the Culinary Institute of America. He has worked with chefs Alice Waters and Thomas Keller at their restaurants in California and New York. Recently, in the past 7 years, he took over for his family's business in Crown Point, Indiana, a restaurant business that has been owned by his family for over 53 years. Since that time, he's developed the business, included additional restaurants, including Provecho and Ramen District. Please welcome Chris Pappas. Yay.
Thank you for having us.
We're so glad that you guys are joining us today because you have a hefty role in today's episode. We're defending Indiana, and we want to defend it by using you as chefs and restaurateurs and your experience in the business and your connection to Indiana. So let's get started. We're going to take turns here. Chris, tell us about your background and a little bit about you so that we can understand your qualifications for defending Indiana today.
So actually, Ambarish and I go way back. I was born, well, I guess before that, I was born and raised in this restaurant business. My father's been in the business for 53 years, I think, this year, and was born and raised in the industry. Daycare was literally in the kitchen in the back of the restaurant, sitting on a milk crate. Right here in Indiana, right here where I've opened up several restaurants. And so it's kind of come full circle with, trying to let him retire and enjoy his life. Because I know that most people in this business don't get much time off, and he's, testament to that. Grew up, went to high school in this town, ended up going to Purdue University and where I met Ambarish a long time ago. Graduated from my hospitality degree through Purdue, and literally a week, I think, after graduation, went to culinary school at Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, and had a lot of experiences through there, a lot of connections, a lot of externships, internships, stages, trails in the kitchens in New York, Manhattan, and got an externship opportunity at Shape and East with Alice Waters in California. So talking about culture shock, taking a guy grown in, a very conservative part of Indiana to New York, and then totally opposite in Berkeley, California. Worked there for about a year. And then after that, moved back to finish school in New York and ended up coming right back home to let my dad retire here. And I took over one of his concepts. And since then, I've opened up 4 or 5 concepts in the last 7 years. So it's been pretty much pedal to the metal. It doesn't stop, you know.
Awesome. And Ambarish, tell us about you.
So I have been in this business professionally for the last 24 years. This would be the 25th year. I moved to this country in like 98 and lived in Indiana because this is defending Indiana. Lived in Indiana for 10 years. Met Chris right off the bat when I first moved to Purdue, moved there from San Diego. So also tremendous culture shock there. So I would say if I was to sum it up, I spent like the first 10 years attacking Indiana and then the next 10 years defending Indiana in some ways. So as you know, as someone who's lived in Chicago and drove through Indiana to get to Michigan, that's all it was. Is like, how do I get off of 65? How? What is my next exit off 65?
Right, literally. You're like the crossroads of America, literally.
Yeah, exactly. You see the sign and you're like, oh, shredded truck tires, I need to get off of this road. Basically, you know, that was my experience of Indiana. Little did I know, after working, hotels, resorts, restaurants, and sports, moved here from San Diego, moved to Indiana, and took this opportunity at Purdue where I met Chris and, made a lot of wonderful friends and met a lot of terrific people who I'm in very close contact with. You know, a lot of formative years spent there. It was kind of a coming back to the Midwest sort of situation. Had lived in Chicago for a few years before moving to California. So this was close enough, but not quite. And West Lafayette is its own little interesting microcosm in Indiana. So you can live there, can't make assumptions about the state and see them come to fruition in West Lafayette or Bloomington, right? It's interesting. But no, really enjoyed my time there, working for Purdue and then kind of jumping out of my Purdue bubble to work for Scott Traskus as a part of a small local restaurant group. And that was really neat. Then I got the full blast of what the local community is like, right? When you're on Purdue campus in your bubble, serving the president and his guests and faculty and other departments, that's not a true representation of where you're at. Coming out in the restaurant business, yes, absolutely. Then you get to see and hear and understand what people actually like to eat, and it's not always pork tenderloin.
So honestly, I grew up, born and raised in Indiana, moved out of the state when I was 26. I'd never heard of pork tenderloin as an Indiana delicacy. Janice, did you know that before you were in your 20s or?
No, I didn't know it until I went to IU. So I went to Indiana in Bloomington and then I heard of it.
Is that another school, Denise?
Say it again?
Is that another school in Indiana?
Yeah, that's another school.
Oh.
The good one. Hey, I'll do it all day. Colleen and I go back and forth. I have all kinds of jokes about Purdue, but I think I'm outnumbered right now. Yes, yeah. I am outnumbered. I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
For sure. We rep all corners of Indiana institutions, higher education institutions on Defending Indiana.
We do. But yeah, I don't know. The pork tenderloin, I mean, I'm from Northwest Indiana, from Hammond. Obviously very close to the city. I did not know about, I feel like we have our region burgers, like the Shoops and like that smash burger type of thing. Lemon rice soup. I don't know about the pork tenderloin until I went there.
So tell us about
the best
it.
Lemon rice soup on this side of the border can be found at Pappas restaurant.
Yes, it can be found. We sell a lot of lemon rice soup.
It's delicious.
It is delicious.
It is delicious. It's been a staple for pretty much ever since I can remember it. I'm sure probably in my dad's era too. So
is that like an Indiana thing, or is that?
There's nowhere that exists. And it's very, very unique. And this probably will spin off into another conversation. Is that the Indiana, this pocket of Northwest Indiana, this Northwest Indiana region, has that draw to lemon rice soup that no other place will ever exist. And they also have like kind of where my dad's concept lies, or when he created it, this 12 islands, this Greek combination, not diner, but restaurants where you can go and get, breakfast, lunch, or dinner and pilot high, cheap. That doesn't exist anywhere other than like New York City, where they have the New York City diners, right? But you can never find that type of restaurant with lemon rice soup that serves omelets, burgers, and anything from under the sun, other than here in Northwest Indiana. It's very strange. I mean, I've traveled all across, the United States, and there's nothing that even comes close.
I didn't know that was a specific Northwest Indiana thing.
Yeah.
So we
Chris,
grew up
is it? Yeah, I was gonna say, is it based on lemon orzo soup? Is that like the origins?
So it's traditionally algo lemon, right? So it's rice. It's like a chicken base or chicken stock, thickened with egg yolks. So you temper the egg yolks in. It thickens up by egg yolks. So it's very traditional, but it's also very just a staple. I mean, when you're sick, you get lemon rice soup. When you feel down, you get lemon rice soup. When you want to get a gallon of it and share it with the family, you go and get lemon rice soup. It's crazy how it just exists here.
That's awesome.
I mean, the tenderloin is essentially a schnitzel on a bun, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. We got off tangent with the lemon rice soup.
No. Lemon rice soup is cool, and I think it's worth mentioning. Like a late night call from Chris, dude. Someone wants to sponsor me to make like 1 million gallons of lemon rice soup and build the equipment around it so we can get in the Guinness Book of World Records. That was true. This actually happened.
This did happen.
Wow.
Wait, what?
I don't think the thing went through, but the conversation was very exciting. Of course, Chris and I were talking about like an hour about how to make like 1 million gallons at once of lemon rice soup.
So how do you do it?
Man, there's so many logistics. We didn't even try to attempt. I mean, we were doing research. There's a local guy around here that wanted me to like push for it and try to do it. I mean, at that point you have the amount of BTU and heat needed to heat the soup, and the logistics in trying to add the egg yolks to thicken it. That's just a nightmare. It doesn't even include the contracting and the expanding of the vessel that it's in, and the amount of like expanding of the liquid it's when you're doing it at that volume, all the physics are at play, and it just, I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know if I want to be a part of that.
I could understand. Who holds the record? Who holds the record?
I need to look this up. This is what
I'm not too sure, honestly. I've spent a few years, so it kind of went out of my reach. Got it.
All right, I want to hear more about the pork tenderloin too. Like what?
Pork tenderloin's great. You could go for one right now. Actually, it's
so I mean, that's another thing. Pork tenderloin. I mean, it's crispy, flavorful, salty. Can add.
And it's really not a tenderloin, right? It's a loin most of the time.
It's most of the time, because I mean, you wouldn't want to pound out pork tenderloin. It's so tender.
Pork tenderloins.
But I mean, usually the tougher cuts of meat, which is called pork tenderloin just out of marketing purposes. That's kind of what people like to do. But it's good. I mean, you can't. It's just kind of it's basically take like this whole hot chicken craze right now, or like Chick-fil-A craze. It's just like that, but pork, and you really can't. You put Nashville hot on a pork tenderloin, you're not going to tell the difference.
So is that
tons of pork producers in Indiana? I mean, it is a natural thing to come out of Indiana, right? With the amount of pork being produced and the love for fried food in the state, why not, right? These tenderloins are pounded out. They're beautiful. They're crispy. They're golden. The bun is just there as a handle to hold the big ass pork tenderloin. Mm-hmm. Really, there's no more purpose than that. And they give you like this 2-ounce cup of coleslaw. It's like, cool.
Yeah,
so there's some raw vegetable here. But,
to like help water down the cholesterol, just balance it out a little. Yeah.
But make it easier to pass. I don't know.
The best part about it is if you take the cup of coleslaw and dump it on top of the sandwich to make it like creamy, cool it down, add that little bit of extra fat and acidity,
Yeah.
Especially creamy coleslaw. If it's, just the vinegar-based coleslaw, it's, just the acidity. But
that's another Indiana diner thing. I was gonna say I don't like coleslaw except at an Indiana diner. I like because they always make it creamy, and I just eat the whole thing, and they still give it to you because I feel like Colleen in Chicago, even at the diners, they don't give it coleslaw anymore.
No, and when I'm a coleslaw connoisseur.
Okay.
That's the one thing that I ate as a kid that I just love more than anything. In fact, I got a tub of it in my fridge right now from a place out by my sister because I think they have the best in the Chicago area. Yeah. Okay. Hardcore coleslaw, man.
we'll come down
You're
and
really going to great depths to get your coleslaw.
I am. It's a problem. Okay, so is it a unique to Indiana thing, this pork tenderloin fried thing?
Sandwich, I believe, is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty standard for Indiana restaurant. If you find it, I mean, you're going to have some sort of pork on your menu. You have to. I mean, that's just kind of what it is.
Yeah, cheap, easy to make. I would venture to say German immigrants bring in the schnitzel to the area, and next thing you know, it's on a bun. Probably super easy. The portability of a pork tenderloin. It's very large though, right? It's like the size of the plate.
It's
itself.
usually most oftentimes than not, it is larger by like 3 or 4 inches than the bun itself.
It has to stick out of the bun a lot.
You have to like cut around the edges and like within the lines, and cut that edge off to make a sandwich, and then the other cut off pieces are bonus.
Wow. I'm learning.
So Colleen, we have to go get one.
I know.
And so when I was in Kentucky a couple weeks ago, my nephew, I never know what in-law families are. He said there's a Chinese restaurant in Warsaw that is like very well known for their pork tenderloin, and I wrote it down. So if you want to make a drive out to Warsaw, maybe pick up some Amish furniture on the way, we should go do it. Because I don't know, is anywhere else? Well, Chris, you would know any place in Northwest Indiana that does a pork tenderloin?
So we do.
We'll go see Chris then.
We do. It's not in like larger than the bun type. We try to make it a little bit more, not so
Indiana
right in your face. But we do.
It's like elevated. It's a pork tenderloin elevated, right?
Yeah, we do. I mean, obviously, most spots around here, like if it's going to be like an authentic, mom and pop place, we're going to have one, and it just depends on their version of it, I guess you would say.
So that brings me to my next question, which is, what, as your experiences go, what does the average Hoosier resident like to eat? Or can you even make that generalization? Like, is that too stereotypical?
Do you want to go first, Ambarish? You want me to go?
The tastes are what you would find across the Midwest, is what I realized. One of the things that really blew my mind, and I don't know, I never brought this up. Chris and I never talked about this. Is the noodle dish, the chicken and noodles that get served on the mashed potatoes. I mean, it's like 3 layers of starch when you factor in the gravy, right? Absolutely delicious, though. When I first heard about it, I was really appalled. I was like, what are we doing? And, again, this is me coming from a professional standpoint into it. The more you get to know the people and the down-home style of cooking and gathering, right, these dishes start to make more sense. Food, we know, those of us that eat and those of us that work and cook, right? There are 2 kinds of people that eat and people that cook. And sometimes they intersect. So we know how powerful a food experience can be. So it doesn't matter if it's 3 layers of starch in a chicken noodle dish. If it recreates those memories that you had with your grandmother, it's the best thing in the world. And when you start looking at these down-home style dishes in Indiana, and there are a lot of them, I would say, we're talking about a group of foods here that are not necessarily what Chris and I would have cooked while here, but things that resonate with the folks that live here. When you go to your family gatherings and barbecues and you recreate those smells and food, it's a very, very powerful experience. I found the food to be sort of creamy, sort of bland at times, but at the same time, rich in tradition. We often complain about how the generation before us, there's been some loss of tradition with the baby boomer generation because people ate out. This was the first generation to embrace eating out a lot. And then you missed out on some of those recipes. Those are kind of alive still in Indiana. Sugar cream pie, right? Indiana sugar cream pie, a classic dessert. We brought that back in the restaurant that I opened with Scott at Ripple and Company. It was a staple we brought back, and it was someone's mom's recipe. We totally took someone's mom's recipe, adapted it to suit our needs, made good crusts, and made the sugar cream pie. Again, starch unstarched with sugar, nothing special, but a very comforting dish. So the moment I kind of like stepped out of my chef judgmental sort of mindset and started to eat this food, I realized, hey, this is just simple, comforting food, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you don't eat it twice a day, you're okay, right? People get super picky about their corn, where it comes from, when they eat it. So you got some really hardcore corn people in Indiana. Everywhere that grows corn, people are like, oh no, ours is the best. There's that. But Indiana folks really, they will eat corn and they'll go after it those 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then they won't be as crazy about it. Everyone's got their little shucking operation set up at home, and they'll grate the kernels, save the milk, and freeze it, and all that jazz, right? Everyone will tell you their method, their process. But those are some of the things that I experienced, which I kind of enjoyed about Indiana food. The pawpaws, for example, right? Terrific. The Indiana banana. Right. I don't know if you guys have encountered.
No, literally, you're like blowing my mind right now. I've never shucked a corn in my life.
Yeah. Pawpaws grow on the side of the road in Indiana. They're like a little banana. Yep. Beautiful, delicious, creamy, custardy flesh. That is kind of the texture of a ripe banana, but has the flavors of a mango and a pineapple. Beautiful fruit.
Wait, yep. Where do you see these?
They grow on the side of the road. Like I said, you just got to keep looking.
You just got to find them.
So yeah. I need to learn how to forage.
Yes. Well, these are like the laziest forager's dream come true, because they're like right there.
So perfect for us, Colleen. Perfect.
So are they near Chicago, or do I have to get down to like West Lafayette?
No. That's traffic.
I've tried to find sources for them. That's kind of my thing here. I collaborate with a lot of different local producers, and it's kind of always been my thing since Ambarish probably met me. Just trying to collaborate. I cannot find a steady source of pawpaw to use, because that's my thing. Is I try to take things native to us and make a spin on it, right? And educate at the same time. I think it's very important, but can't find a steady producer. I just don't think the demand is there for somebody to have it worth their time. However, it's there. It is there.
So what do you do with a pawpaw?
Pawpaw? You take the bulb, you can make a banana bread with it. You can make some beautiful ice cream, anything. It's just this beautiful custardy sort of dessert. But there are, and there are seeds. There are like big seeds in the middle, so you got to kind of work your way around it, which is why, like Chris was saying, for restaurant use, if he could get the pulp, that'd be awesome. And there are folks that do it. Speaking of mind blown, 7 years after living in Indiana, someone said to me, hey, the sugar cream pie, by the way, is not the state dessert. It's the persimmon pudding. I was like, what? Where are you coming from? I haven't seen a persimmon I haven't seen a vegetable since I moved to this state. Persimmon pudding?
I had persimmons.
So, as it turns out, that's the thing, right?
I've had persimmons on my menu. I've had it for probably since persimmon seed started, and we just took it off. Well, we took it off, I think, right when winter hit, but it's coming back. It went really well.
I read an article in the New York Times. They always have like their big Thanksgiving thing in the food section of the New York Times. And it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, they listed all the state Thanksgiving dishes. And one of them was persimmon from Indiana. And I had never heard of that before. I'm in my 40s reading this. I have no idea that I had to go out and look at persimmons to try to figure out exactly if I'd ever had one before.
Why are they here?
I saw persimmons in Costco the other day.
Wow.
My mind was blown.
Where do they grow?
Apparently there's like a culinary underworld in Indiana.
They would go down south, Georgia, and Carolinas. They're growing them south from here. The weather up here is not the greatest.
So do they grow them in southern Indiana?
Where I was purchasing from, the producer was in Georgia. So okay. I'm not too sure. Maybe they're selling them to them. I'm not too sure. But that's where my source is from.
To figure out the Indiana connection, like how did that?
We're gonna put up pictures of the pawpaw and the persimmon.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now. I'm familiar with the persimmon, but I don't think I've ever tasted it before.
Chris, speaking of Southern Indiana, you remember our wonderful relationship with Maple Leaf Farms that we took advantage of while our time at Purdue. largest. So these are like things about Indiana that you don't expect that just hit you. Like someone comes up and you didn't know this, and it's like, how am I supposed to know?
There's a lot of cool things happening.
Yeah, Maple Leaf Farm. So we all buy duck from Maple Leaf, right? Everyone knows a Maple Leaf Farm. Suddenly someone's like, do you know they export to China? It's like, I didn't know that. They're like the largest producer of duck in the world. I was like, oh, great. So right here in Indiana, and there's Culver Duck Farms, Maple Leaf. There are a ton of people. You take something like persimmon and duck, and if it's growing together, it's going together. It's a delicious combo right there. But yeah, at Purdue campus, really, Chris, don't you think helped us get some of these leads on products and things with the big ag sort of school approach?
Yeah, I mean, I still have the relationship with them. I reached out to them not too long ago.
Yeah, they're great.
They're great people, but it's just crazy how there's so much going on that I don't think the opportunity. I think that there's too much going on in Illinois. And it's too far away in Ohio to that's where I'm kind of defending Indiana a little bit here. It's a good place to live. Not to knock Illinois at all. Taxes are a lot less, and I think that the opportunity for starting small is easier here. There's hardworking people that live here, and I think that the opportunity is there. There's a lot of. I'm actually right after this podcast now. I'm going to be heading to a meeting with one of like the best pork producers here, and it's in Crown Point. I mean, he's got a crazy sustainable way to produce the best tasting pork that looks like beef. I kid you not. At Howe Farms I'm going to shout out to that Howe Farms right now. We're doing. I buy 2 whole pigs a week for our restaurants, and we use the whole animal here at all the restaurants. I mean, there's just a lot of cool people doing a lot of cool niche things.
It's all here. It's all here. It's all growing. We just have to look. People in our line of work, Chris and I, we are suckers. So we'll seek this stuff out. It's not as readily organized or available. Indiana is getting there. It's getting better about, Indy's getting better about co-ops and, natural food programs, bringing them to light. Smoking Goose does a nice job in Indy. Kind of being the umbrella for a lot of local producers. And they're a wonderful charcuterie house. If you guys are not familiar with Smoking Goose, stop by, check them out. Here's another crazy thing, right? So I'm working at East End, one of Scott's restaurant, and I am just on Instagram, I run into a Italian cheese producer that makes some of the best burrata that I've had, and they're in Northwest Indiana. I was like, what happened? Why are you here? Mm-hmm. So I invited them to the restaurant. The guy shows up bringing like 5 kinds of burrata. One of them is squirting out like truffle juice. I was like, okay, please come sit here. Let's eat this burrata now. But he was telling us the story because I got super excited, not because of the cheese, but like that they're here. So I wanted to find out why. So he tells me the quality of milk with those Amish farms in the Northwest region is very similar to what you would get in Italy in some respects. So that's why their Italian owners decided to put their farm here. They're a newer place. They haven't been there for a long time. They do some delicious cheese though. A lot of it is fresh still. They're a new dairy, creamery, whatever you want to call it. But this is happening. All these things are happening. Traders Point, close to Indy. I'm not sure if you've heard of Traders Point, but you can get that milk or that creme fraiche at the grocery. Delicious. It's interesting. Chris mentioned his Howe Farms contact, right? Small farms. We as chefs and restaurateurs, and again, this is defending Indiana. This is not our soapbox here, but we come into contact with these folks, the mushroom people, or hey, I'm doing this and it's really tasty. Do you want to try it? All the time they come, and then it's up to us how we feature these products on our menus, right? My friend, just like Chris mentioned, Howe Farms, a good friend close to Purdue came to East End and said, hey, I'm raising kuni pigs. I was like, ooh, that sounds delicious. What are they? He's like, oh, they're these really cute pigs, and they're spotted and they're like short and squat. Perfect for me because it's not a traditional Indiana pig. That's like 300 plus pounds, huge. These are a little bit smaller, more manageable, kind of like a furry, attractive step stool. It's beautiful. They make
delicious.
Yeah, they're delicious. So he is like, I'm doing some pigs. Are you interested? Same thing. With respect to the farmer, you buy the whole animal. As a chef, sorry, as a chef, you figure out what you're going to do with it and you roll with it. I mean, we made hams with it. We made ragu. We made sausage, all that stuff. It's this food is tasty.
So I just want to point out the sound effects to our listeners. Chris and Ambarish are actually like in their places of work. So you may hear crashing pans,
Yes.
cooking noises. And that's just because we're trying to bring you the most authentic sound experience here at Defending Indiana. How would you guys compare, Indiana farms, produce, products to some of the other places that you've worked around the country and around the world? Can Indiana hold a candle to any of those other spots?
So, I mean, I think so. However, everywhere that I've been have different growing regions and growing seasons, which impact what they can and cannot do. And I think that for what we're provided here with the growing season time and temperature and moisture, I think that they're doing the best that they can be for if they're trying to do something very unique. There's a lot of possibilities. I mean, granted, soy and corn and feeding corn is a big staple out of Indiana. But I think that for what we're given, there's still a great amount of people like trying to do some really cool things. However, when I was in California, they're very totally different worlds as far as I think that the varietals of things are grown. More of the heirloom and different named organic things are popping in my head. However, they have a different demand. So I think that here in Indiana, for what people are aware of, and I think that's mine and Ambarish's job as people in the restaurant business to educate and try to put things on our menu that can expand people's mind and palate. But I think that for what is going on here, I think they're doing the best that they can.
I've been talking to a friend of mine close to Lafayette, Indiana, who is doing some really beautiful mushrooms. He's doing cultivated mushrooms, just gorgeous stuff. We used it at East End for a while. It was, it was beautiful. He's doing varieties, and his mushrooms are gorgeous. They're consistent. They're using their local rotting wood to grow the mushrooms on and inoculating the logs. He also does pigs. But it's him reaching out to chefs, right? We know him, so we feature his product. But how does he expand his network to reach everyone? I think that's where the work is. We can talk about it as much, all day. But really, the folks have to be helped to get out into the market, hit the mainstream a little bit, and price accordingly where restaurants can actually afford to use this product. We have to stretch our resources to incorporate local product on our menus. Consistency is a factor. Things come in and go seasonally. They ebb and flow when it's local product based on the weather. So all those factors aside, there's some really beautiful stuff happening. I'll give you an example. Just as Chris mentioned, How Farms, I was buying from Prime Valley Farms, which produces, they produce American Wagyu. There are plenty of farms in northern Indiana that are producing American Wagyu beef. Expensive. It takes a long time for the cattle to mature, longer than conventional cattle. People at Prime Valley Farms, they are using 100% full-blood Japanese Wagyu, what is it called? Families, the strain, right? To raise these cows, to grow these cows. So it is 100% Wagyu. It's not a cross like most American Wagyu is. Theirs is 100% Wagyu. They provide a certificate and they test it genetically for that reason. Beautiful beef. We're buying whole animals. We're selling them at the restaurants because it is that good. As chefs, we kind of pretend like we're little gatekeepers of what's good and what's not. Oh, you haven't tasted this. This is so much better, sort of thing, right? That's what you always run into a conversation when talking to a chef. But this is true. They're producing really good stuff. The pigs, the cows, the duck that's coming out of Indiana. And that's not just produce. But if the effort is organized, it's wonderful. I think we'll get there, and we'll get there fast. Yep. Because chefs are cooking differently. People are eating better. People are asking for better locally grown food. You look at someone like Fair Oaks Farms, right? When you can't miss them when you drive from Chicago to Indy. Big, huge step in the world of agritourism. Huge. They got great ice cream too.
Hotel.
You stop by and they cost like $10. You watch a cow giving birth. It's phenomenal. I'm not sure how agritourism works, but hey,
that's what I want to hear. What should I want to see before I have my milkshake? Thank you. This is
exactly right. Hey, where is this shake coming from?
I think it's important though for people to understand where their food comes from. We've had that disconnect as time goes on, and I have customers that come in every day and they still don't understand that what milk actually is. It's very, very strange to counter that. And I'm circling back to the comment about the farms. There is a lot of and I think that these people that are doing very cool things are so caught up in their own business and their day-to-day operation. And we've experienced this. Lulay and I experienced this when I was at Purdue. We try to get meetings with these people. These people are very hardworking people, most oftentimes, and not doing the work on their own, making sure that they're trying to get their product out there. They don't have the resources or the people to market for them. So they're usually the people that are doing the farm, their own farming. And you're a special type of person if you are a farmer. And that's not knocking them. It's just they're not always extroverted. They're not always, the easiest to talk to. And so for them to step out of their bounds and try to find people like us to market their products to, it doesn't happen all the time. It's usually the other way around. I have to find them. And, and I think that the opportunity in Indiana is a lot less than these farms in New York and California and the coast because of the concentration of people looking. And I think that that is also comes into play, when you're in California and you've got hundreds of farm to table restaurants, those people are actively always looking for these farms. And so those people don't really have to market themselves because those people are coming to them readily. Here in Indiana, those people that want to do cool things, they have a harder time getting off the ground because of the market and the way that those relationships have to be created.
That was my question. Is the demand there, from the consumer side?
It is.
Okay.
And people might argue this with me, but it is. And from what I've seen in the last just 7 years, there's a lot of people moving from Chicago to Northwest Indiana. There is a lot of families, especially with the more people working remotely or having a little bit more of a flexible work schedule. They are avoiding paying the Illinois taxes. Just in Northwest Indiana region, they're moving back to this area, and they're wanting something like the Chicago experience. Whole
Foods is headquartered in right by you, Chris.
And right? I believe Munster is the lead distribution for Whole Foods in the Midwest. It's there's a lot of cool things happening here because of that demand of all the drive that people are coming here, which is I'm very fortunate for because I would say the security of this restaurant business is a little bit more intact than other cities around Indiana because of the fact that we have this draw from Chicago or this new found place of living from Chicago. In Indiana, Indianapolis is home to several dozens and dozens of nationwide, worldwide corporations, and there's just a lot of people with different palates coming this way, and the demand is getting better. The problem is trying to make sure that we can afford that to put that on our menu. And I think that's the hardest part with that. I think that that's the biggest challenge that we face here in Indiana is trying to market to those people, but also market to people that have been here forever. And it's kind of one of those balance. You have to pick one. It's hard to find immediate. If that makes any sense.
Denise, there's also, to your question, there's a generational divide that I mentioned earlier where farm to fork in a state like Indiana was before the 60s and the 50s was probably a way of life, just as it is in California. Everything is farm to fork, right? And it was kind of understood that if it's corn you're eating, it's in season. That's why you're eating it. Not going to the local big box grocery, getting corn in the middle of December. But like I said, we lost some of those traditions there. And as a result, we're trying to rediscover. So it's going to take us a minute to get there. It's pretty cool to see the beverage industry in Indiana take off as well, hand in hand with the food. There's great beer. Munster, there are distillers around Chris, brewers around Chris that pop up. They got custom ales on tap at his place. We have in Lafayette, we had several distilleries that popped up in the 3 years that I was in the restaurant arena. Great stuff. Not saying every microbrewery is making everything great, but there are some really good things coming out. Even if it's 1 or 2 beers per brewery, that is absolutely delicious. Closer you get to Indy, you see a lot more, the distillery business and things like that, more popular. So that's a nice change, which tells me that people are looking for these things. They are asking the question, where did this come from? And we vote with our dollar. So the more people ask the right questions, we're going to get great local produce. These hubs are going to start forming and we'll have more access. Access is a big thing too.
Yeah. You guys, this has been so informative, and I feel like you've really helped us defend Indiana and food and cuisine.
We've learned like new fruits. Like I've got notes here. It's crazy.
I'm looking up pictures after we get
pawpaw. Like we're gonna go on a mission now.
Yeah.
Colleen, next time you're driving past a pig farm, in the words of Jim Gaffigan, one of your famous Indiana residents,
yes,
fun to pet, better to chew.
So well put. Yes. All right, I have to ask you guys each the 2 questions I ask everyone who comes on Defending Indiana. So we're going to go in alphabetical order. So I'm going to start with Ambarish, first names. Can you tell me what is one of your favorite things about the state of Indiana?
Oh gosh, this is tricky because you guys are going to publish this information, right?
Yes, it is a podcast. Ambarish.
It is. I just totally spaced that. One of my favorite things, food-wise, or just in general?
Just in general.
You know what? I think the days when the first corn comes out and hits the market, you eat that corn and it's like nothing I've had before. Absolutely delicious. To see people get excited and wait for something as simple as that is just it really changed my life. And we used to eat the crap out of that corn for those few weeks, and then you're done because it's absolutely divine. And the way people get picky about it, like, oh, it has to go from field to pot of water to shucked and frozen in its own milk, and I'm just like, oh wow, this is serious business here. Just eat the corn. I mean, it's good, right? And one of the least favorite things, so they do the pulled pork here in Indiana, right? And they put it in a machine like a KitchenAid with a paddle, and they whip it. They whip the pulled pork into some sort of this puree like goo, and they put barbecue sauce in it as they're whipping it.
Ew.
For a state that produces this much pork, you gotta stop doing that.
Yep.
Just let that pork fall apart, man. Just,
naturally, right?
Just braise it, nice, slow and low, smoke it. Whatever you gotta do.
Yeah.
But don't whip it. It's not cool. Like, don't put it in the KitchenAid. This happens, right? I've seen it before. I've seen caterers put out this whipped. They call it pulled pork or barbecue pork, but it's like this goo.
Yeah, that's
horrible. Bad things. They're doing bad things when they do that.
Things.
Don't do bad things to dead pigs.
Chris, am I wrong? They do that, right?
You are 100% right on that one. I've never.
It's horrible, man.
I don't know. I've gone over to Super Bowl parties, and they're like, "This is the best pork I've ever had." I'm like, "This is like meat pudding."
It's terrible.
Ew.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And
it's not the reason why I moved away. I mean,
it's always
worst combo of words together.
It's always not a good thing when the texture of the bun is the same texture of the meat. You just like
exactly. But go back to chicken and noodles, dude. You go in with a fork. It's like 3 starches of the same color and same texture. You go in, the chicken is cooked to death. You got this gravy, beige on beige action, 50 shades of beige,
khaki.
bro. You just go right through that.
It's actually a great menu item, by the way. That's a good name for the menu, and that would sell here.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Special
hashtag 50 Shades of Beige.
You heard it here first, everybody.
Sorry.
All right, Chris, what are your favorite things? What are your favorite things, and what would you most like to change about Indiana?
Meat pudding. No, I'm. My favorite things
with creamy coleslaw on top.
My favorite things. I would say I think it's the people, and I don't. It's hard for me to describe. And I kind of touched on it a little earlier. These people, we've been in the work ethic of very hardworking, and I think that I'm a little bit more fortunate. I mean, everybody's having trouble staffing, and I think that I've been a little bit fortunate. These people around here are supportive. They're open, they're more open-minded than I would say Southern Indiana would be. But I think that this region has especially, I'm just speaking for my region itself, but it's definitely the passion of the people. I think that it makes this my favorite place. There's just a lot of cool things happening, a lot of very passionate people that surround it. But I also, it's hard for me. I'm a little bit biased. I'm biased because I was born and raised here, and I live here, raising another family here. But I think it's a great place to live. I really do. The one thing I want to change is people that need to be more open-minded, I guess, than they are now. To change, because we're very, very hardworking, but they're stubborn, hardworking people. They expect their food to be piled high and 3 layers of same texture, like we were talking about earlier. But I think that the people being more open-minded to, which kind of a little bit contradicts what I said a little bit earlier, but I think that there's, for the most part, I think just to be more open-minded to different types of food, to trying new things, to learning about new things. I think that's key.
You guys have been amazing, and I can't thank you enough for joining us today. I'm so glad my dear friend Scott Traskus was able to connect us, and I had the chance to meet both of you. And Chris, you're close enough that I'm definitely going to come to your restaurants. Quick plug for your restaurants. Can you name them all?
So Provecho, Latin Provisions, downtown Crown Point. Pappas Restaurant, which is close by as well, and Ramen District, and Grand Catering and Events. Yes.
And Meraki Food Truck.
And we have a food truck as well. Yes, I just did that. I built it for my wedding. And,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It feels like he doesn't have enough. I'm sorry, Chris does not have enough projects right now.
No.
There's a lot of projects. There's a
I
lot
love
of
it.
There's a baby on the way.
And another baby. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Terrified.
Congrats.
Busy man.
Yeah.
Ambarish, is there anything you would like to plug today?
Go to East End,
Yes.
Scott's Restaurant. Go to East End, go to Ripple, stop by, see Chris on the way. Order the kegged cocktails at Chris's place or at Scott's place. They do nice stuff. It's just you got to give those local restaurants a chance. If you're eating in Indiana, seek out, if you're going to eat pork tenderloin, there's nothing wrong with a good pork tenderloin. Seek out the best one you can.
Ooh,
Agreed.
good
Right?
advice.
Seek out
Good
the best
advice.
one you can. If it's Indiana pork, it's even better. But go check out East End, go check out Ripple, and Grey House Coffee. These are all West Lafayette area institutions that you will enjoy. Hang out. It's like Chicago restaurants without the pretense.
Perfect.
Boom.
Boom.
Sorry.
All right. On that note, mic drop. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You guys are terrific.
Defending Indiana, featuring Colleen Brennan and Janice Rodriguez, is produced by Colleen Brennan and Janice Rodriguez. Theme music and sound editing by Michael Miltenberger. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard today, you can subscribe to Defending Indiana wherever you find your favorite podcasts.